I'll be honest. I would much rather him watch a WWE show than some of these TikTok videos that I'm seeing.
Hey, doom scrolling is a real problem. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, even in terms of controversial topics and all that, at least on wrestling, it's still good guy, bad guy to some degree, right? Some of the other things that I'm seeing on social media, I'm not quite ready for him to get into right now. So if I can distract him from that, and allow him to grow up with something that maybe I approve of a little more.
Yeah.
And I know most people are going to go, you're talking about wrestling as approved content compared to what else is out there? Absolutely.
Hey, how you doing? This is Shawnrick, and this is round one where we talk about fight sports all around Singapore and beyond. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about wrestling and parenting. And this is my partner at this time, my guest, my brother from another mother, the lunch bro at Kiss 92.
Best in the world, baby.
Look in his eyes. What do you see? It's Tim O, the man with more personality. What's up, brother?
What's up? Thank you very much for having me.
This is the first time we're doing Too Sweet on the show.
Yeah. There you go. All right.
Okay. So, for context, Tim O and I, when I first came to SPH as a radio DJ, and they knew that I came from the pro wrestling background, right? So when I came out, I found you, and then I found out that you were a big wrestling fan too. I was like, yes. And I had to study under you to learn about radio.
Yeah.
Right?
It was interesting because one of my producers at the time said, hey, we got a new part-timer coming in. He's a wrestler. I was like, he's a wrestler? Really? I mean, like, is he a wrestling fan? But he's an actual wrestler. And I didn't really believe. And then I saw this lumbering giant of a man come in. I was like, he's a wrestler.
See, there you go. My 3 matches in my life.
Hey, that's 3 matches more than most people.
But who knows? We might get in the ring again.
There you go.
Hey, okay. But first off, I wanted to know your story of being a fan of wrestling. When did you first get started with the world of professional wrestling?
Wow. This is gonna age me so much. Back in the 80s, late 80s, I'd never seen professional wrestling before. And I remember I was in Jakarta because that was where my dad was working at the time. And we switched on the TV and I thought it was like one of those martial arts kung fu shows.
Okay.
But no, it took place in a ring. I realized there were certain rules and I saw these guys larger than life. Because remember, this was back when it was known as WWF, right? Everything was larger than life. Everything was about cartoon characters.
Eat your vitamins, say your prayers.
Was literally superheroes.
Right.
In tights, doing the most amazing performances. And I just found myself so drawn in. I got hooked. And it was also an opportunity, I feel, and one of the reasons I'm so sentimental about wrestling is this was something I used to watch with my grandfather, with my dad growing up.
I had the same thing with my grandfather too.
Yeah. And so now that, I'm a father of a 6-year-old, I'm kind of doing the same things with him that I did with my dad growing up. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what match was the first match you've ever seen?
First one that I remember, Strike Force. Wow, yeah, that's right. Rick Martel, Tito Santana, and I think they were...
Tito Santana?
Yeah, they were taking on the Killer Bees or Demolition at the time.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, my first time ever watching wrestling was Yokozuna Hogan.
Okay.
When he did the scoop on Yokozuna.
Throwing the powder in the eyes.
Oh, when Mr.
The salt, yeah.
And I remember then when I asked my dad, hey, Daddy, who's this guy in the yellow tights and doing the hulking up and all that, right? Who's that? And then my dad looked at me and went, hey, dog, you don't know? Oh, Daddy, best friend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
For 20 years, I thought it was true. Okay.
So, question. Did you ever pull any of the moves on your dad?
On my dad?
Yeah.
I chopped my dad. I'm not afraid to say it. I chopped my dad. Like sometimes I'll go out to my dad and my daddy, he's like, yeah? Woo! And I just walk away. And then my father, what the hell?
Okay.
Did you?
I never chopped my dad, no. So it took a while, right? And I think at some point, and we're probably going to talk about this today, where my father, seeing how excited I was, how into it I was getting, felt the need to have that conversation with me regarding wrestling.
No,
Yeah.
wait. You say like the conversation,
The conversation, right?
the
The Santa Claus conversation.
the glass shatter conversation.
Yes. Right. So I want to know, at what age was that conversation had with you?
I feel like I never had that conversation with my
So you found out.
by myself.
Wow.
Also because my family doesn't watch it that often, and it's only usually times when I'm visiting my grandfather at his place, and then he would have the show on,
Yep.
and then he would go drink kopi and all that, right? And then my father and I would just sit down there, and my granddad. So it's three guys: me, my father, my grandfather, just sitting down on an old CRT TV,
Yes.
watching old wrestling, and we're just like. And it is all happening in Mandarin, right? Wow, no. They're just talking, and it was that moment of bonding, right? But not once did it ever come up as people going, "Oh, this is," and I cannot believe I'm about to say the F word on the show.
No, let's not use that word.
Let's not use that word. It's not what you think. It's not what you think.
This is performance-based.
Yes.
Yes. Not quite competition-based, performance-based.
Sports entertainment, as it will.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've ever had that conversation, but you had that conversation.
Had that conversation. My dad was like, you can't really go around punching people like that because if you really were to punch somebody like that, they would die. Yeah, much less drop them on their head.
Right? You punch people expecting them to take a bump.
A bounce back.
They come back out, take another clothesline. Cool. But before or even after you had that conversation with dad, it didn't stop you from watching wrestling, right?
Not at all.
No.
After the conversation, I still watched it, but I like to think that it came to a point where I was old enough to be able to suspend disbelief.
Right.
Meaning I would be able to watch it and really get into it.
Yeah.
And while I'm watching it, like watching a movie. Right?
Yeah. Nobody thinks an actual Spider-Man is out there swinging around New York City.
Well, maybe during the course of the movie,
yeah,
you're really getting
yeah.
into, oh, that's right, this guy, he can do all these things, right?
Yeah.
But once the show is over, you can pack it aside and go,
right.
That was that. This
it was
is
an
real
experience
life.
that
Yes.
yeah.
Right.
And talking about the experience, what are some wrestlers that do you have your top? I want to say top three. Top three of your favorite wrestlers growing up. Go.
Growing up. Well, I'm still growing up.
Yeah,
one might argue.
So you still had the top three in there.
Yeah.
What are the three?
One of the top wrestlers. Well, I'm
all
wearing
time.
his T-shirt. CM Punk. Okay. Always be a CM Punk fan.
Straight edge. Best in the world.
I have to put Hulk Hogan up there.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
Controversial, but
gotta be
okay.
there. Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can go more if you want, Like,
I feel like with some of them, you got to choose because some wrestlers, they're placed in the same tier. You either one or the other. Like between a Bret Hart and a Shawn Michaels, as much as I loved Bret Hart and I really idolized him growing up, I was more of a HBK fan.
Okay. So
Yep.
CM Punk, Hogan, Shawn Michaels.
Kevin Nash.
Kevin Nash.
Razor Ramon.
Okay.
NWO, baby.
So you're a click person, a full-on
Yeah.
click outsiders. Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, now, not only are you a wrestling fan, you are also a dad, a
Yes.
father, right? How has being a wrestling fan influenced your views on entertainment and media for your kids?
Okay, so interesting you say this. Recently, it was the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
All right, and I told you nowadays I wanna do similar things with my child, given the same experiences that I had growing up with my parents, my grandparents, and so he's started watching wrestling with me.
Right.
Okay, and while we were watching the
Royal
Rumble match, right? He's really getting into it. He's like, "Oh, which is the good guy? Which is the bad guy? Why is he doing that to him?
Such an
Why he
awesome
smash him on the face?" Right? My wife sitting next to us goes, "Yeah, but you gotta tell him right that it's all." And I stopped her right there. I went, "Don't do it, okay?" Because he's at that age where he's enjoying the performance.
Yeah.
He's really getting into it. I feel. Coming back to what I said about being able to suspend that disbelief, right? Being able to partition what's in the moment, and after that, packing it aside. He's not going to enjoy it. You're going to kill it for him the moment you tell him that it's all performance-based or it's scripted, right? So I want him to be able to really get into the characters and really get into the storyline.
Yeah.
Okay? Later on, when he's old enough to be able to enjoy something in the moment and recognize that, all right, that was a performance, then I'll tell him.
So in due time.
Right? But That said, it's also weighing on my mind a lot. My concern, and we've been seeing this for decades, where they're encouraging, viewers, especially kids, not to try this at home.
Oh, remember
Right?
the ad? At first, it was the skills performed by these superstars are professionals. Well, please do not try this at home.
Absolutely.
And then years later, they took out the at home, the words at home,
At all.
because people were trying this outside of home.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all did that growing up, you watch it with your parents, you go to school, you talk about it, you sometimes try the moves on each other.
Swimming pools are a really good place.
RKO, into the pool.
Powerbomb.
Right, or a lot of the moves back then, I feel were not quite as crazy or dangerous.
Sure.
It's still dangerous at the time. And nobody's going to do you a DDT and drop you on your head.
Oh, no.
That would still hurt.
Yes.
Pile drivers are definitely a no-no. But, things like, a pretend super kick,
Right.
or I try and put you in the sharpshooter, or the figure four leg lock.
Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, right? I
Right.
mean, I find moves like that less dangerous than a lot of the moves, high-flying moves now. I feel like now if kids decided they want to try and replicate the moves that they see on TV,
Yeah.
I don't want to see my boy doing a 450 splash
For
off the
context,
top of the bed.
What is a 450 splash? You want to explain this?
It's when you jump off the top rope, you do a somersault midair and then land on the person.
So it's like, you know how in skateboarding and all that, you do an ollie, a 360, 180. This is a 450 because you one full rotation and then the upper body landing. 450 in it. The reason why I understand the severity of this is because back in the day, people jumping off the top rope was already labeled high risk.
Hardcore.
Whatever you would do off the top rope, as long as you were off the top rope, it was a whoa thing. Now, not only do you have to jump off the top rope on the turnbuckle, you also got to defy physics in some manner.
Yeah.
People doing reverse 450, corkscrew somersaults, and all that.
Absolutely. I mean, we haven't
Trying to
even gone
innovate.
into, tombstone pile driver territory, right? Or package pile driver
Oh, dear.
territory. So, I mean, if my son says, hey, I want to do Hogan's leg drop, right?
Yeah,
or
that's
the
okay.
people's elbow,
Yeah, that's okay.
right? I mean, that's fine. But as time has gone by and you know how the industry works, moves just get more dangerous. They get more intense.
So
they
where
get
do you-
flashier.
Where do you really draw the line in terms of these aspects of wrestling culture, whether it's the moves or the storylines or whatnot? Where do you draw the line in things to tell your kid, this is okay, this is not okay?
Yeah. I don't know, dude. Honestly, it's a struggle right now. I'm still very conflicted about it. Even sometimes when storylines tend to get a little bit more adult, they're like, oh, Papa, why is she kissing this other guy? Right? She was kissing another guy. Yeah, right. Which one is her boyfriend? Yeah, I'm like, hey, isn't that really nice title belt? Wouldn't you like that title belt?
Isn't that your favorite superstar, Randy Orton? Oh yeah, that.
And so, I mean, once again, it's just the time or the era that we're in now with wrestling. Growing up, it was, at least back in the 80s, when everything was just all about superheroes.
Very clear cut, very
Yes,
black and white. Yeah.
Easy for the children to follow. The good guy was always the good guy. Take your vitamins, say your prayers, go to the gym, work out, be good to your parents. And then at the same time, nowadays, because they've broken kayfabe, they've drawn back the curtain, right? So it's also a little bit weird when you see these guys doing the most nefarious, awful things, but then they're going to make a wish.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then something just doesn't correspond. Right? Wait a minute, I just saw this guy. He's a really
Do
bad
some
guy.
charity event.
And now he's helping out the little kids, right?
Yeah.
So things like that, I feel to a 6-year-old are going to be a little bit confusing.
Of course. But back in the day also, it was like old times. If you were a bad guy, the bosses would say like, okay, you want to keep kayfabe. Kayfabe is a magic word in this show also.
I think you need to explain what kayfabe
So
is.
kayfabe is one of those things where you got to stay canon to your character of whatever's happening in the world of wrestling. If you're a bad guy, you're doing bad things, it doesn't make sense for you to be going out there being
high-fiving, kissing babies.
Yeah, no point being a good Samaritan and all this. So from what I understand, in the past, when you were a bad guy, you you don't attend these events.
Yes.
You stay home.
And on top of that, when you travel, you don't travel with the good guys.
Yes.
They cannot see good guy and bad guy together.
You got to separate
right?
like class A, class B, right?
And to some degree, it kind of worked back then. These days with the internet and all that, it's difficult to really expect, your talent to just stick with that character their entire lives.
Yeah. It also helps when when you are a bad guy and you've done such bad dastardly things that you have your own transport and you're not with anybody else and you just ride off after the show so that you don't get hurt by other people who really get so bought into the story. There are instances people getting stabbed, people getting assaulted after the show.
Day. I mean, how many times have you watched a wrestling show and you see somebody try to storm the ring, right?
Yeah.
Because yes, even as adults, we get so into it.
Seth Rollins.
Yeah,
recently.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
Once again, if you can imagine adults already losing their minds, imagine a kid. Yeah.
Speaking of being, thinking about the kid's influence as a parent, okay, how do you manage screen time and content choices when it comes to wrestling?
Ooh.
Okay, screen time wrestling. So like, I don't know, you want to watch it too, right? And then your kid comes and like, I got test tomorrow, daddy.
No, it's true because we do give Charlie, a quota on how much screen time. Thank you. A quota of how much screen time he can have a day. I mean, whether it's using the iPad or whether it's watching TV, right? But I mean, selfishly, I'll admit that watching wrestling does not fall under that quota, right? And my wife will be like, hey, you already watched TV. Why are you letting him watch wrestling?
It's not Charlie's time.
And I'm like, hey, just because he can't watch wrestling, I cannot watch. Why I got to suffer because of his quota, right? So I do try to start watching wrestling a little later once he's gone to sleep. Like we had to cut, watching the Royal Rumble halfway. He was midway into the match, right? But, hey, it's 8 o'clock. It's time for you to sleep, right?
But let's be fair.
Yes.
You ref it up. You wear a referee shirt. When he's still watching TV, watching the show, you're over there. 1, 2. You count him
Time out, right?
Out. Go.
But of course, once he goes to sleep, right? I'm going to carry on watching. I mean, I need to find out who won the Royal Rumble, right? And then next day he'll be like, Papa, when are we going to continue? And I'm like, continue? I didn't get to see who was the winner. And I'm like, okay. I feel like, we've gotten him into something. It's only right for him to see some sort of conclusion.
But that to me is still like a very good telltale sign of like your son is interested and invested in something, right? Especially in something that you love and now your son loves it.
And truth be told, I mean, I would much, with all the, the types of content that's available right now, right? I mean, I'll be honest, I would much rather him watch a WWE show than some of these TikTok videos that I'm seeing.
Hey, doom scrolling is a real problem.
Yeah. Or, even in terms of controversial topics and all that, at least on wrestling, it's still good guy, bad guy to some degree, right? Some of the other things that I'm seeing on social media, I'm not quite ready for him to get into right now. So if I can distract him from that, allow him to grow up with something that maybe I approve of a little more. Yeah. And I know most people are going to go, you're talking about wrestling as approved content compared to what else is out there? Absolutely.
Speaking of approving, I want to ask you this question, okay? Let's say Charlie is so in love in pro wrestling, right? 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. Charlie goes up to you and goes, Daddy, we need to talk. I want to be a pro wrestler. What would you say?
Well, we're all about chase your dreams, follow your heart, and things like that. I mean, it's not just wrestling. I think with anything, as a parent, you don't want to curtail their dreams and cut them off at the legs, right? But at the same time, you also want them to know that there's a lot more than the glitz and glamour that they see on screen, right? And we're old enough, we watch the documentaries, we have seen more failed stories than success stories, right? So I guess, thankfully, I'll be able to refer him to a lot of these other types of content where he'll realize it's not all
the glitz and glamour. No, you got to pay your dues.
Absolutely. And on top of that, it's also a crazy industry to be in, right? Yeah. Substance abuse, alcoholism. I mean, even the number of wrestlers that we grew up with. I don't even know how many of them are still alive. And I'm not even talking about the wrestlers that I first started watching. I'm talking about when I was a teenager, right? A lot of these wrestlers have already passed due to all sorts of conditions, whether it was substance abuse,
CTE.
Yeah, concussions, or hey, sometimes things happen in the ring.
Yeah.
I was watching wrestling when Owen Hart, died. It wasn't even a wrestling match. He hadn't even started wrestling.
Yeah.
They were performing a stunt, and he fell to his death.
These are high risk professionals, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, and so yes, while it's fun, there is some glamour, especially with a generation where it's all about, I want to be famous, I want to be popular, more so these days than they was before. There's all these costs to that fame that you're chasing.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more thing. I think we talked about this before. You want to give your son the same kind of feeling that you had watching wrestling, which is what I think is also the same kind of feeling of that bond or that wow factor. Like, wow, this is amazing. I'm watching this and all that. And you want to give that to your son because that was an amazing feeling, right? If you could take your son and go time traveling back with you to catch a specific moment in time in the world of professional wrestling or whatever that
at what
you went
age?
through. Your choice.
Right now, at his age,
at his
right
age
now?
now, to take him back to enjoy something that you were enjoying side by side watching the show together. Or for whatever reason that moment spoke out to you. What would it be?
What? Wow, that's tough. There's so many, right? I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking triple threat at WrestleMania 20.
Oh, that's a good one.
Benoit, Shawn Michaels, and
such a
Triple
good match.
H. I'm also thinking, anything featuring the Road Warriors, although those would have been really, really short matches.
Yeah, but they were also very clear-cut matches. Like, what role does the Road Warrior team play? Like, if they're good guys or bad guys. I think as we got towards the current day now, things are starting to get a bit more gray. Nothing is black and white anymore. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question, right?
Yeah.
Like,
what would it be for you?
Okay, so if I had a kid and I want my kid to enjoy what I had, to be honest, because I started really getting into pro wrestling pretty late. I first watched it at a very young age, and then nothing came out of it. And then all of a sudden, everybody at school was doing like, if you're some man, and then the suck it, and the just bring it. One kid just came up to me in the canteen and just went, hey, just bring it. And now I'm like, bring what? Right? Because I wasn't into it. And then if you're like, you're not in the know, you're not cool.
Yeah.
Right? So
but doesn't it surprise you that, I mean, kids nowadays, they know all the references, right? And I mean, if you think about it, right, a kid these days should have no idea about The Rock. I mean, as a wrestler.
Yeah, because he was so back in the day.
Exactly. Or much less if you smell what The Rock is cooking,
the closest could possibly be if you can't see me, that kind
that's
of
still
Cena.
a ways back.
Right.
That's already more than 10 years, dude.
Right. Oh, yeah. Cena's been a while.
Right. But I mean, if it was a match where he'd never seen wrestling before.
Right.
And he's just watching it for the pure spectacle of it. I don't know. I would love to have been there too. Hogan against Andre.
Oh.
Right?
This is like you attending in attendance?
With him,
Oh, not even TV. You straight up attending it. That would be awesome, dude. Hogan and Andre.
Or Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
Two of the most colorful characters.
No, absolutely.
Kids really get into it. And once again...
Macho Man? Any Macho Man?
Yeah, maybe Macho Man as well. The Mega Powers explode. Heartbreaking moment. But a lot of people are going to rag on Hulk Hogan because, they were like, he was just a 5-move king, or it's 3 moves of doom.
Same thing happened with Cena.
Didn't have a strong work, didn't have a big work ethic, But, I mean, at the end of the day, while I think it's great to have that connection with your audience, that connection should be able to come in multiple ways, right? They can be in the moves that you do, in the way that you sell your story, or it can just be downright charisma. And no matter how much you want to rag on an Ultimate Warrior or a Hulk Hogan, they had so much personality that it was just wow.
But that's the beauty of wrestling, right? You like what you like, you don't like what you don't like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? So you would take your kid to watch a big live event with Hogan versus...
You were there when I brought him to watch his first wrestling show.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a local promotion.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
invited us, and
yeah.
he was it was crazy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just looked at him, and his eyes were just like...
See,
Yeah.
see, now that is the wrestling parent that I want to be when I grow up. On that note, I want to thank you. This was we're at the end of this episode.
Oh, that was quick.
That was quick, right?
Yeah.
See, I know we can definitely talk about this for like hours on end, and I'm definitely gonna have you back because it is a very exciting episode to one of my favorite wrestling shows of all time. This is just a bit teaser. I don't know when we're going to do this, but we're going to do this sometime. Okay? I want you in on the show. Are you down?
Sure.
Hell
Okay.
Yeah?
You're not going to give me any clues what show this is?
Let's just say it's on the grandest stage of them all.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got what you mean.
All right.
Ooh,
Timo,
too
round one.
sweet.
Woo!